Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm bored. COVID made me bored, and today I'm gonna play Dice Masters. Dice Masters is a collectible dice game. So instead of cards, well, there's actually cards as well. It's a combination of cards and dice, but the main gameplay revolves around dice. It's not necessarily a dice chucking game. There's a lot of dice rolling, but ultimately, instead of other trading card games where you have card characters doing the attack, you now have dice representing your characters doing attacks. So this is sort of a setup, and definitely for Dice Masters, just like for trading card games, there's a lot of cards to collect. In Dice Masters, there's only just a small subset. There are a lot of different dice to collect, and if you love dice, these are actually pretty fun to collect. Every dice here has a color and a symbol representing the character, as well as several other symbols representing energy. And in Dice Masters, it's kind of like a deck building version, but with dice, combined with the collectible card element of trading cards. So you can purchase booster packs. I bought a starter set. This was the Justice League starter set. I also have the X-Men starter set, and I also purchased a few extra boosters separately. And the booster packs come with a card, a character card, and their respective dice to go with them. And you are basically dice building to the point where you are trying to bring down your opponent's health from 20 all the way down to 0 to be the victor. And you will be attacking with your characters, with your dice characters, and your opponent will be doing the same, and you'll be defending against attacks using your characters. So typically, I've downloaded this sort of playmat from the internet. The person who designed this, I like this design out of all the ones I saw. There are multiple zones that you need to be aware of when you're playing. I'm just going to move all these dice out of the way. I'll keep a few just to show you. And as you are rolling and assigning dice and using dice, they'll be going in different areas, and attacking with dice, they'll be going into different areas of your board. Let's first talk about the cards. So a character card, where he's Superman, has several pieces of information. He has a description of his name plus his title. So this is Superman, last son of Krypton. I believe there is a limit of one unique character per team, I guess. So while I may have Superman, last son of Krypton, there may be another Superman with a different title that I would be able to use. And with each character, they have their affiliation. So here he has an affiliation with the Justice League. So sometimes cards do make reference to that. For example, here I've got Green Arrow, who his affiliation is Justice Society of America. And you'll see at the top, Superman has a value. This is a cost value, or an energy cost value, with an energy symbol. This is typically, most of my cards only have the 1. There are some other cards that have 2. But this basically tells you, and it'll make more sense once I show you the dice, that Superman requires 6 energy to be purchased, and 1 of the energy must be of the type shield. He has a ability or an effect that he has while he is in play, and he has a dice reference sheet at the bottom that tells you the distribution of symbols on his dice. And his dice is right here. So for the dice, I think pretty much all the dice, they have 3 sides that have depict symbols of their symbol, and that's the energy type. There are, I think, 5 energy types, or maybe 4 energy types. No, it's 5. And the other side you'll see is their character symbol, and this is what represents Superman. And he has 3 different stat values that are on here. The first one on the far left is what's called the fielding cost. This is how much energy you must pay in order to field or put him into play, basically. And the top right value represents his attack value, and the bottom right is the defense value. Now, because of his 3 sides, he actually has 3 different levels. His lowest level, which is level 1, shows not only his cost, but that is his level, as well as his second level and third level. It just so happens that the cost value is the same. That's not the same for all dice. So some dice have a first level with a cost of 0, or a second level with a cost of 0. So the 3 sides that he has increases in his attack and defense, and those are the 3 levels of his character. When you are starting or playing the game, you will be selecting, I think, up to 8 characters to be on your team. They can be any characters you want, and just like trading card games, when you're choosing characters, you can build characters with synergy, and they can sort of play off each other in terms of their abilities. I've only got 4 here for the, let's call it the hero team, and my villain team I have 4, just to keep things simple. I don't need all 8. You can play with 6, you can play with any number. I would recommend more than 2, because otherwise the game can just drag on very long. Your opponent would also bring the equal number of characters, and every character would come with dice. And they all have a maximum number of dice that you can provide. So here you'll see max 4, which means that at any given time I am only allowed to have 4 of Superman's dice. Now I actually have 2 of them, but to even the odds, I have a total of 6 dice on my team, and that is the same as my opponent's. Only because I don't have a second dice for Black Manta and the Joker. I only have 1 dice for each because they were in booster packs. The starter deck came with 2 dice per character. Okay, so on top of that, you have something called action cards. These are basic actions. You and your opponent each bring 2 for a total of 4 action cards. What's different between action cards and character cards is action cards usually provide some kind of ability, and they are all 4 of these, even though I brought 2 and my opponent brought 2, they are open to be purchased by anybody, opponent and yourself. Whereas your character cards can only be purchased by you. I cannot purchase my opponent's characters. So basic action cards, let's use this one for example, they come with 3 dice, and they are typically assigned a color. The cards themselves don't have a color, so they have these sort of color mats to sort of identify. This is the basic action card that I'm assigning to the blue dice, and I have 3 blue dice on them. And the action card will provide some kind of ability. It has a cost at the top to buy that dice. In this situation, you don't see another symbol, so any energy can be used to purchase this dice and use the effects of this card. It gives you the text as well as the distribution on the sides. Now, I'll go through first the character. Well, I went through the character dice in terms of what they represent, and in terms of the other dice that you have, you will start off with a set of 8 basic dice. And these dice is what you start off with. You'll be putting in a dice bag, you'll mix them up, you'll draw 4 on your turn. At any given time, you always draw 4, unless you have abilities that allow you to draw more. And you'll see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But 4 types of energy, sorry, I was incorrect. So there is fist energy, sort of, I think, mystic energy, lightning energy, and shield energy. You'll also have on this dice a question mark, which can be any energy that you need, or choose. It's a wild card. And you have this symbol, which is a pawn. A pawn is sort of like your non-superhero player or a character that is in your front line of defense that you can use. They have a 0 cost to field them, and I'll explain what that means in a minute. They have an attack value of 1 and a defense value of 1. Pawns are just like what they are in chess. You send them out when you just need to hold the line. So depending what you roll, you'll be able to use your energy to purchase other dice or have pawns to be in your attack zone. So for the basic action card dice, you'll see that they have 3 sides which represent 2. The number 2 is energy. It's 2 of energy, any energy that you need. So sort of like a wild card, but there's no specific energy type. It's just blank energy. So it's not like you can say, I need 2 of shield energy. It doesn't count. It's just 2 energy. That's it. You'll also have the exclamation with sometimes a lower right asterisk, and that is usually reflective of the ability on its associated card. So here I have the exclamation, which I'm able to use this ability, and I would be using the ability which is associated with the 2 asterisks. Deal 3 damage instead if that player has a villain in play. So it'll make more sense as I play this. So there you go. And in terms of your play area, you have multiple zones. You have to keep track of your health somehow. So I have sort of an extra character dice that I'm using. You start off with 20, and you're going to knock your opponent down all the way down to 0. How you do that is if you successfully do an attack where it's not defended, and that attack will take down your opponent's health based on whatever the attacker's attack value is. In this area, you will be pulling dice from your dice bag. You will roll, and your results will be in what's called the reserve pool. So your reserve pool is where you start. And this is where you can assign your energy that you need to purchase other dice or purchase effects if you need to, or pay a cost for certain abilities if you need to. If you have characters, in this situation I rolled a pawn, he is a character, and you can also use the energy that you have to pay the cost of your character to field them into the play area. You're basically preparing them for a battle. So your reserve area is where you have your results of your dice rolls. You pay whatever you need for abilities or whatnot. If you want to field a cost, you pay that cost to field your character, and they are prepped. They're not attacking, they are ready. This is sort of the ready zone. So let's just say I have Superman. So let's just say I so happen to roll this character. On your first roll, you have the ability to re-roll any number of dice once. After that, you're stuck with your results. So you'll see here that I've rolled Superman. He has, it might be tough to see because he's really dark, but he has a fielding cost of 2. He has an attack value of 7, a defense value of 7. And I have my pawn that I rolled, which has a fielding cost of 0, attack value of 1, defense of 1. And I rolled 2 energy. So what I can do here is I'm able to field or prepare my pawn for no cost. But in order for me to have Superman in the fielding area or the prep area, sorry, not prep area, but the character area, I need to pay 2 energy, any energy, to field him, and I do. So I would pay that cost. Any energy that I use to pay for any abilities, fielding characters, I move into the used pile. So that's another area of your board, which would be the used area. So Superman is now in the field. He's not attacking, he's just fielded and ready to go. In order for me to battle, I would declare an attack. I would choose any number of characters, and I could move them into the attack zone. So that is the top area of your playmat. And there's no cost to do the attack because you've already paid the cost to move them into field area, but from the field area into the attack zone, there is no cost. So let's just say I am attacking with Superman. At some point, my opponent would have had their turn, and they may or may not have characters in their field area. And they would be doing the same thing, but on a defensive side. So let's just say we have Deathstroke. This is his character. Doesn't matter which side he's on, but let's just say he's on this side, and he's, from the previous turn, he's been fielded. So if I'm the attacker, and I choose to attack with Superman, I would move Superman into the attack zone. Now, aside from his special ability, which I'll talk about after, it would be now, once you've declared all your attackers, the defender would declare any defenders, and he specifically assigns his characters to defend whoever you're attacking. So in this situation, I'm going to use Deathstroke to defend against Superman, and you kind of want to line them up so that you know who's facing who. At that point, you would resolve the combat, and you exchange attack from both characters at the exact same time. So Superman's 7 attack to Deathstroke's 3 defense, and Deathstroke's 3 attack to Superman's 7 defense. So in this situation, Superman is able to knock out Deathstroke, but Deathstroke is unable to knock out Superman. Now let's just say, does Superman have a lower value? No, he's pretty strong. So in this example, Superman would survive the attack, Deathstroke would not, and as a result, when Deathstroke is KO'd, any KO'd characters would now go into what's called the prep area. Now I know this is upside down, but over here is the prep area. So if, let's just say Deathstroke had a different attack stat, and he was able to knock out Superman, Superman would end up in the prep area. So prep area is for when it is your next turn, you'll be adding him to the collection of 4 dice that you pull from your bag. So effectively, you'll have 5 dice to roll. So the more characters that you've KO'd into the prep area, there is sort of a bonus or benefit to you because you'll have more dice to roll, and you'll see that as I play. So let's just say my opponent didn't have any characters. So Superman wants to attack, no one to defend. That means his attack goes through to the opponent, it is successful, and because Superman's attack value was 7, I would lower my opponent's health by 7. If I had other characters that were attacking and they were not defended, I would add that total to bring down my opponent's health. So it's similar to some trading card games where you are exchanging attacks at the exact same time. You have a front line that's defending anybody that can't be defended. Any attacker that can't be defended basically gets through to the opponent and takes them down. So a lot of the card text will make reference to a target character, which is your dice, and the player, which is the opponent. So if it's referring to a target character's health, or you're KOing them, you'd be KOing that. Whereas if you are dealing damage to the player, that is actually the player's health. So once you've done that, you're going to start to build a collection. So let's say in this case, let's just say Superman. Let's go back to that example. Deathstroke was up here defending. They exchange attack. Superman's able to defend himself, but unfortunately he knocks out Deathstroke. So Deathstroke would end up in the prep area. Superman, where does he go? He goes actually back into the field. He survived, and he goes back in here. Now, if Superman was attacking that last turn, but my opponent didn't have anyone to defend, that is a straight through successful attack, undefended. I take down my opponent, his health value of 7, because that's Superman's attack value, and now Superman has been used and exhausted. He goes into the used pile with the other dice that were used to pay for the cost of fielding him, as well as any benefit of abilities or effects that I wanted to pay for. So that's basically Dice Masters in a nutshell. The most important part is understanding the flow of where your dice goes, as well as how your attacks happen and resolving those attacks. So we're just going to do a quick playthrough here. I'm putting my characters back, resetting the health. So your basic 8 dice that you get, each player gets basic 8 dice that goes into a dice bag. Now, I don't have a fancy dice bag. I just basically, this is like a bag for some headphones or something that I bought. So I'm going to shake that up. My opponent also has his dice bag. So we'll just say our Justice League heroes are going to go first. So I'm going to shake it up, and I'm going to draw 4 dice from my bag. And now I'm going to roll them. So I'm going to roll, and I get a wild card or a wild energy, which can be any energy that I need. I also have the mystic energy, and I have 2 pawns. I'm going to choose to, I get 1 chance to reroll. I'm going to reroll, and I get a shield energy. Okay, so I'm going to spend 3 energy from my set of characters. I can afford to pay for Zatanna. She is a energy cost of 3, of which one of them has to be mystic. I think this is mystic. I'm not exactly sure if that's the actual name of it. It's just mask energy, I guess they call it. Mask, shield, and fist. So I pay the 3, so I move that into my used pile, and I pick up Zatanna. Where does she go? She goes into the used pile. So at any time I've purchased one, it goes in here. She will eventually end up in my dice bag once I run out of dice and I need to refill it. So I have my 1 pawn left that I have here, and I can field this pawn for 0 cost. So I'm going to put him in here. Now, if I want to, I can actually choose to attack. And let's just say I'm a bit aggressive. I'm going to attack. So I'm going to attack with my 1 pawn. My defender has my opponent has no defender. So there's no such thing, as far as I understand, there's no such thing as I cannot attack on my first turn. I don't think that is a rule. So all's fair in love and war. So I attack, and it brings my opponent down 1 life. So now that I've had a successful undefended attack with my pawn, he goes into my used pile. Okay, so now the turn goes over to my opponent. My opponent is going to draw 4 dice, and he's going to roll. He has 4 energy, which he's okay with. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to use all 4 energy to pay for Deathstroke, who is a cost of 4 and requires 1 fist energy. And I do have 1 fist. I'm going to move this into my used pile. And Deathstroke has been purchased and goes into my used pile. So that ends the turn for my opponent because he can't do anything. And now it switches over to the heroes. The heroes are going to roll. And I get 2 pawns and 2 energy. So I'm going to go ahead, use the 2 energy that I have, and I'm going to purchase this basic action card. I'm going to choose one of the dice because it costs 2 of any energy, and I'm going to add that to my used pile. The 2 energy that I use to pay for it also goes into my used pile. And the 2 pawns that I have, 0 cost each, I'm going to field them both. Now, I could attack with them, but you know what? I'm just going to hold on to that. I'm going to keep them. Maybe I'll attack with 1. I'll attack with 1. So I field 1 to attack. My opponent has no one to defend, so he goes down 1, and my pawn that I attacked with goes into the used pile. So the last pawn, or my other pawn that I have, I'm just going to keep them in the field area. You can keep any number of characters in your field area at any given time. You do not have to attack with them. You can just keep them until you need them, especially for balancing between attacking and defending. My opponent is going to roll his dice, and he gets 4 energy again. So we'll put this in the reserve pool, and let's see. For 4 energy, I'm just going to go ahead and get my last Deathstroke because I have a fist energy and I purchase him. So they're all going in here. Okay. So now my opponent can't do anything. So it's back to the heroes. And I don't have any more dice. So I take everything in my used pile. I put them into my dice bag. I'm going to give it a good mix, and I'm going to pull out 4 dice. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you'll see that I pulled out Zatanna's dice, and I'm going to roll. And fortunately, I do get her this time. So I have rolled my character, and she has a fielding cost of 0, attack of 2, and defense of 2. And I rolled 3 energy, and I can choose to re-roll at this point, but I don't want to. I want to spend the 3 energy. I can use this as a mask energy. I'm going to spend the 3 to purchase my last Zatanna dice, and she goes into the use pile. And I'm going to field Zatanna for 0 cost, and I'm going to attack with her. So I'm going to attack with her. So my defender does not have anyone to defend with, so 1, 2. And she goes into my used pile. My opponent's turn. He has no more dice in his bag. He's going to take everything in his used pile. He's going to shake them up. And we pull out 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to roll these dice. I get 1 pawn and a fist. I'm going to spend the 3 fist energy to purchase Black Manta, because he's 3 energy with a fist, a single fist energy requirement, and I'm going to field the pawn into the field. Now I could attack, and I might want to, so we'll just go ahead and just show this. So I'm attacking with that 1 pawn. So the heroes here, as the defender, I can either choose to let that attack go through, or I can move the pawn that I had in my field to defend against that attack, and I'm going to. So they're going to attack each other. There's no one else to put in the field, from the field, because we only have the one character, and we're going to resolve the combat. So both these pawns have an attack of 1 and a defense of 1. So when you're attacking, equal or greater than will KO the other character. So they both KO themselves. Each other, sorry, not themselves, KO each other. So when they are KO'd, they move into the prep area. Okay? So nothing got through, my opponent does not lose any health, and I don't lose any health. So now it is back to the hero's turn. I'm going to draw from my bag 4 dice. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? And normally I'd be rolling these 4, but I have a dice in my prep area from the previous battle, which I can now, any dice that are in the prep area, I can include in my roll. So now I have 5 dice to roll. That is how you can end up affording higher cost characters, not only with certain dice that provide multiple energy, but having more dice in your prep area so that on your next roll you have more. So in this situation I rolled, because I got my basic action card here. This really doesn't do me any good, because if I were to use this ability, it's KO a target sidekick. There's no sidekick in the field on my opponent's side, so I'm going to reroll this one, and I get the same thing. So this is of no use to me. So I have my pawn. I can field him for 0. Order doesn't matter. You don't have to pay first and then field characters. You can do it in any order that you want. And I have 3 energy, which I am going to spend the 2 energy here to pick up this basic. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to spend all 3 energy, and I'm going to pick up this one. This dice, the vulnerability basic action card. Because I cannot use this ability, it can stay in my reserve pool. There's nothing I can do with it, but I will move it into my used so I don't get confused. Now I have the option of attacking with my pawn, but I'm not going to. It's going to be my opponent's turn. He's going to draw 4 dice. And because he has 1 in the prep area, he has 5 dice to roll. So he's going to roll. We get Deathstroke, 2 pawns, and energy. So let's see. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to reroll this one for energy. So I have 3 energy again, and a pawn and Deathstroke. So I'm going to spend 2 of the energy to buy this basic action dice for 2. I can field my pawn for 0 energy, and for Deathstroke, he has a fielding cost of 1. So in order for me to field him, I need to spend 1 energy. So I'll spend my last energy here, and it doesn't matter what energy for fielding, and he goes into the field area. So I can choose now to attack with both. I can attack with 1, or I can just leave him as is. I'm going to leave him as is. Yeah, I'm just going to leave that for now. So now it's the hero's turn. I pull 1 dice out of my bag, which means that I need to shuffle my dice and pull 3 more. I'm going to pull 3 more dice. 1, 2, and 3. So I have my 4 dice to roll. I didn't have any in my prep area, so I only have 4 to roll. And here I go. I roll 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 energy, and remember, this 2 means 2 neutral energy. It's not of a particular energy type. So I have 5, and I could re-roll, but I'm not going to. I'm going to spend 4 energy to get my green arrow, because green arrow is 4 energy and requires 1 lightning, and I do have that, and he goes into my use pile. This last piece of energy, I don't really have a need for it. I can keep it here in case I want to use an effect if I need to, but as of right now, I cannot use this for anything. So this is just going to go into my field. Okay, villain's turn. He pulls out 2. We have to get 2 more. So I'm gonna roll the dice here, pull 2, and I'm gonna roll. Okay, so I get this one and 2 fists. I'm gonna try to re-roll for Deathstroke, and I do. I get him. Okay, so this is a good example. So I rolled on my basic action dice this symbol, which gives me an ability. I can KO a target sidekick, and I can, because of the double asterisk, I can KO an additional sidekick if I'm able to. So I'm going to use this. So once I use this ability, I put it into my use pile, and I'm going to KO my opponent or the hero's pawn that's sitting in the field. When he gets KO'd, he goes into the prep area. And now I have Deathstroke. He has a fielding cost of 2, so I have 2 energy that I spend, and I move him into the field area. And I'm going to attack with both my Deathstrokes. So I move him into this and him into this. A total, my heroes do not have a defender because he KO'd my one and only pawn to defend. So a total value of 7 attack, which brings me down to 14. Oh, sorry, 13. And he should be, well, yeah, 7. Okay, so I'm down to 13, and my opponent is at 16. So because the 2 Deathstrokes that I attacked with over here, they got through, no, they were not defended, they go straight into my use pile. They do not go into the prep area because they were not KO'd. They successfully attacked, so they go into the use pile. That ends the villain's turn. It is now my turn, and I rolled it. I pulled out this. I have a dice in my prep area. I'm going to add it to my roll, and I get, sure. So I have 4 with lightning and a pawn. Okay, so I rolled my special basic action card. I'm going to use that to KO a target sidekick, so this gets KO'd. I'm going to field my pawn for no cost, and I have 4 energy, which I am going to buy my green arrow. And there we go. So as you can see, as I'm spending energy to buy my dice, I'm slowly building my dice, my total amount of dice, so that I have a higher chance of getting more than just basic dice. Now in Dice Masters, you can't get rid of any dice. So I think with some deck builders, you have abilities to get rid of those useless cards that you have, the weakness cards or the cards that provide no benefit to you or no power or anything like that. In Dice Masters, you don't get to do that. Every dice you collect stays in your collection as you and into your dice bag. So I've got my pawn, and I've got this. I think Dice Masters was based on another game from the same designer, Eric Lang, Quarriors, and that's where this was sort of spawned from. And they just used a superhero theme, and I think they changed some mechanics, but the principle remains the same. So heroes aren't going to do anything. They're going to keep that pawn there. Villain's going to draw four dice. I was about to say cards. 4 dice. Add the dice because it's in the prep area. We're going to roll. And we get a couple options here. So we'll put this into my reserve. And the decision will be, do we want to keep them or do we want to roll? So I'm going to field Black Manta for 1 energy. I'm going to field my 2 pawns because they have no cost. And I have 1 extra energy left, which I can use what's called a global ability. Global abilities are on some basic action cards where it tells you pay whatever energy cost, in this case it's a fist or lightning, and you gain 1 life whenever an opposing sidekick is KO'd this turn. So global means that either person, either player can use this ability. It's universal. Whereas some character cards may have an ability that only the controlling player can use. So here I'm going to go ahead and play that. So if I so happen to KO a sidekick this turn, the villains will gain 1 life back. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to attack with Black Manta and one of my other pawns. So because I know this, I can choose to either not defend or defend, preventing 1 damage to me, but risk the fact that he will gain 1 life. So you need to decide. It's not a difficult strategy here, and it's hard to know what's going to happen, but I think I'd rather take the 2 damage, honestly, so I can hopefully get that back the next round. So these are 2 successful attacks. Black Manta has an attack value of 1, so does the pawn, so I lose 2 health. And they go into the used pile. And that's it. This effect doesn't take place because they did not KO my pawn. So I'm going to draw for the heroes. I get 2. I need 1 more dice, so I'm going to take everything in my used pile. I'm going to give it a shake. And I'm going to pull out that dice. I'm going to roll. I get 2, 4, 6. I get 6 energy, and I have a wild card, and I'm going to choose this to be a shield energy, and I'm going to use all 6 to buy Superman into my used pile. That ends my turn. I'm not going to attack. The villains get to go. They pull out 2 dice. They need 2 more. And I get this. So I'm going to roll. And here we go. So I'm going to pay 1 to field Deathstroke. I have my pawn for 0, and I have 1 energy left, which I can't use, and I am going to attack with these 2. So the heroes can choose to defend. I am going to defend with my 1 pawn. Now, you can choose who you're defending against, and obviously I want to defend against Deathstroke's attack because he has the higher 3 attack value. So I'm going to move my pawn there. So let's resolve. We'll resolve these guys first. Deathstroke's 3 attack to the pawn's 1 defense, and the pawn's 1 attack to Deathstroke's 3 defense. So this pawn is KO'd. He goes in the prep area. Deathstroke is not KO'd. He goes back into the field. This pawn had no one to defend him, so he gets straight through. I lose 1 health, and he goes into the used pile. Now, if you have multiple characters in your field, you can actually team up to do a team defense. You can't do a team attack, but you can do a team defense, in which case you would add up the total defense against the attacker's attack, and also your total attack value. So the if I'm able to show that next time, I'll show that the attacker can choose to distribute his attack value amongst the defenders. So that ends the villain's turn. It is now my turn. And I pull out 1, 2, 3, 4, plus the one that I had in my prep area. I'm rolling. And I get this. And I'm going to try to re-roll this one. And hopefully, yes, I do. Okay, so I have my 2 green arrow characters. I'm going to spend my 2 energy here to field both of them. And we get a special ability with Green Arrow. When fielded, Green Arrow deals 2 damage to each of up to 2 target characters. So we'll just do it one at a time. So I fielded this Green Arrow first, and I'm going to do 2 damage to each of up to 2 target characters. So I deal damage to both this pawn and Deathstroke. One thing to note, during the round of battle, any damage that is inflicted, you keep track of. When the round is over, you clear that damage, so it doesn't carry forward to the next round. And you'll see why in a minute. So I've done 2 damage to 2 target characters. When I do damage to this pawn, he only has a defense of 1, so he automatically gets KO'd and goes into the prep area. The 2 damage that I put to Deathstroke, he has a defense value of 3, so he still has 1 left. So he's not KO'd. Now, if I only had the 1 green arrow, that would be it. And then I can do an attack. Now, when I'm attacking, and let's say Deathstroke is defending, instead of his defense of 3, because of my ability, his defense is only 1 now. So let's just say it was a pawn instead. This pawn would actually be able to KO Deathstroke. Under normal circumstances, he wouldn't, because Deathstroke has a defense value of 3. So that's just an example. And what I'm going to do is, so when I field, he is down to a 1 defense, and now I field my other green arrow, which does the same effect, 2 damage to his 1 defense, and he's KO'd. So now I have 2 energy, which I'm going to spend to buy this last basic action card dice, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to attack with both my green arrows. I'm going to be aggressive. They both have an attack value of 5, which means I bring this down to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's down to 6. That was 10 attack. Just like that. No defenders, so my 2 green arrows go into my used pile. Now it is the villain's turn. I'm going to put this into the used because I didn't use it. I draw 1, 2, 3, 4, and I add the 2 characters or 2 dice that were in my prep area, and now I have a total of 6 dice that I'm rolling. And I've got quite a few here. Okay, so now is risky, and now I might be paying for it. So I have 1 Deathstroke, the second Deathstroke, who is at his 2nd level. So total fielding cost of 3, and I have enough. So I'm going to field first my... Oh, I forgot Deathstroke's ability. That's okay. I forgot that Deathstroke's ability here is regenerate. So when he got knocked out, he actually doesn't go into the prep area. He actually re-rolls and goes back into the field. So, or he re-rolls and is either goes back into the field or he goes back into the prep as because he didn't get a character face. I'll explain that next time. That I totally missed because it doesn't happen often for me. Okay, I'm going to spend the 3 energy to field both my Deathstrokes, and I have 1 energy that is of no use to me. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to attack with my 2 Deathstrokes. My 2 Deathstrokes have a combined attack value of 7, which brings my hero player, or me, down to 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So, because they were not defended, they go into the used pile. And now it is me. So I drew the 4. I'm rolling. I get 3 energy. Okay, 0 cost. I also forgot Zatanna's ability. Sorry, it's been a while since I played. So when I field Zatanna, 0 cost. When fielded, draw a die from your bag and add it to your prep area. So there, that will be for my future turn. I have 3 energy that I can spend. And I'm going to go ahead, spend the fist energy for this global ability, gain 1 life whenever an opposing sidekick is KO'd. I'm going to take my chances here. I'm going to go ahead and field. I think you can pay as many times. So I'm going to use this one to also pay for another fist, so I can gain 2 life. So I'm going to field her for the attack. So it's my choice whether I want to defend or let it go through, and I'm going to let it go through because this single 1 takes me down 1 life, but I would rather do that than have the heroes gain 2. So this one goes through, down to 5. That ends the turn. Let me put this in here. Okay, so now it's the villains. They draw 3. I need to draw some more dice. And I draw 1 more. I'm going to roll. And I am very close to winning, so I'm going to try to get, hopefully, Black Manta. I didn't. I get 5 energy with 1 pawn. So with 5 energy, I can pay for Dark Side. So there we go. All in the use pile. I'm not going to attack because I think I'm going to need that defender. So the hero's up. No dice in my dice bag. I'm putting all the dice in my use pile. Shake it up. And draw 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 4 plus the 5 from my prep area. I'm going to roll. Okay, this might be it. Okay, so here we go. So I'm going to spend, this is perfect. I'm going to spend 1 energy to field Green Arrow. When I do that, he deals 2 damage to up to 2 target characters, so I KO the pawn. Then I have 2 wildcard energies. I'm going to pay 1 for this global ability over here on this basic action card. Pay 1 fist energy. Target character gets +1 attack until the end of turn. So I'm going to pay that to give Green Arrow +1, which gives him a total of 5. And I'm going to attack with him with 5 attack, no one to defend. It brings him down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the heroes have won, not by much because it is pretty close. And if it wasn't for Green Arrow, I could have easily just pulled a bunch of energy, and even after a reroll, I wouldn't have been able to do anything, and the tables could have flipped very quickly. So there you go. I forgot a couple of abilities, but again, not a huge problem. You just have to keep track of your characters and how their abilities will take place. It may be an effect when they're fielded. It may be an effect when another character is fielded. It may be an effect that takes place when another trigger happens. So you do have to keep track of those items on your abilities in addition to the basic cards that you have and their abilities. So there you go. This was Dice Masters. This was the Justice League set. And the heroes won not by much. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, stay bored.